And we'll talk more about that later. The next thing that we're going to talk about is this weird public ritual that was in a music awards ceremony in Ireland on May 7th. And here's the slide for that. A literal ritual was performed in Ireland during the Eurovision semifinals. Believe it or not, some people are saying this is just art. What do you think? So as you can see there, actually, here's the text up close. And then here is the picture up close. Sure enough, if you look at this, what we've got is a upside down pentagram inside a circle of candles, which is exactly what I was talking to you about and showing you my own drawings of this stuff, okay? And then they have Bambi Thug. What a savory and wholesome, family-oriented name for somebody. Yes, I still have the zit on my eye. It's never going to go away. I don't know. Whatever. Okay, fine. Bambi Thug, first semifinal, and there she is inside a magic circle which has the all-seeing eye in it, and she herself has black contact lenses on, demonic sharp teeth, her face is all painted white, and she's just like constantly acting like she's the most evil creature on earth. So you got to remember, folks, that this is not just art to them, this is ceremonial. When they do this stuff, there's two levels of this magic, okay? There's ceremonial magic in a small setting, it would happen in a room with people in the robes and masks and candles, as I've said. And it would probably involve a magic circle just like this. This is pretty ordinary what they end up doing. And they're expecting to see something. Again, whether it's real or not, if everybody sees something different, it's probably more like a hallucination. The Law of One says that these symbols that they see are culturally determined. So they build up over time culturally. But again, we don't really know why they do this on a public level, but insiders have told me that there's two levels. There's the small ceremony and there's a large ceremony. On a large level, they consider this to be a form of magic. And what they want is for people to not take it seriously and not act like it matters and not act like it's important and just ignore the fact that every time they do an award show, they come right back to this satanic stuff over and over again. It's like they got no other material. So, you know, part of what I was going to do was to read these poems to you, but they're very disturbing and I'm just not ready. So we'll do that later on. So this is a public ceremony, and when they do this, apparently what's happening is that these entities are greatly strengthened. This is very important. When people look at this stuff and they watch it, and especially if they're entertained by it, if they think it's funny, or they think it's cool, or they think it's hip, whatever their opinion is, if you're not actually upset by it, then you're part of the problem. And that actually feeds these negative entities. They're also fed by us being afraid of it. They're also fed by us feeling terrified by it. That's where they get the most. So these entities actually force you to go out and advertise them. Their advertising is very important to them because if you don't advertise them, they can't do as much stuff. The advertising creates authorization. So this is actually a science. This is a public science of doing mass ceremonies because these entities are losing their grip in the metaphysical world, in the spiritual world. They are losing their power. And as a result of losing their power, they need to do ever more dramatic public ceremonies to tell you who they are, to show you who they are. Let's read some comments as I'm saying all this stuff. Tyler D. just sent me $100. Wow. Mr. Wilcock, I hope this helps. And happy to see that you are doing and feeling better. I like how you said they ran out of material. It's the 17 crew waking up the normies, Marco Solis says. So Sebastian Cooper says, yes, this guy goes out at night. It's a full moon, takes a high-quality camera, starts zooming in, and the closest you can literally see a face of what looks like a giant god. When do you reckon the big blast is coming? Is it 2025 like others say? Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what Michael is saying. Yes.
It is February 28th, 29th, 28th, 29th. I have got me a better quality camera to catch this thing in the sky. And holy moly, I am scared. I'm scared, but I'm not going to trip because I've been catching this thing for a while now. It's very ominous. There he is. There he is. There he is. There he is. It's a huge face looking right down on us. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit brighter. There he is. There's the moon. Oh, I lost it. There it is. Let's see if I can get a better picture on the moon like it's supposed to. Is my hand in front of the thing or something? Alright, here we go, here we go. There it is.
Look at that.
Yep, there it is. There it is.
The camera makes it so clear.
There it is.
Biblical skies all around the world from the geomagnetic solar storm, which again I had just talked about on my show a few days before this. It's incredible. The sun performed. This is a biblical miracle. This is God or the Creator wanting you to know that what I'm telling you is true. I believe that's what this is. The storm was upgraded to level 5 out of 5 or extreme, making it the first G5 level storm since 2003. Scientists warned of possible disruptions to communications over the weekend. Government-funded scientists, quote unquote, telling us to expect power grid collapse, blackouts, which I just had this past week. So we had high winds and then the power went out. That was terrifying. That happened like right after I did the show the very next day. I'm like, oh my God, is this ever going to stop? Cellular system failure, radio outages, satellite disruption. If any of these things were to ever come to fruition, the mainstream media would be the last to warn you to be prepared. So were they trying to get this to happen? Do they want this stuff to happen? Yeah, they're hoping for some extinction level event because then they can hopefully disrupt whatever is going on and regain power in the midst of crisis. This is order out of chaos. It's their classic protocol. But again, looking at the bottom here, these images are so beautiful. The aurora are so beautiful. And I feel very, very honored by that. I never would have expected the sun to do something like this right after I talked about the Virgin Mary and Archangel Michael at Garabandal and the prophecy of a solar flash, and then they do one. It's like, whoa, the biggest one since Carrington? Really? And that just so happens 3 days after I talk about it? Oh my God, wow. Another thing that I like to think of as a geosynchronicity is they were digging around in Cambodia at Angkor Wat, and they dug up hundreds and hundreds of brand new sculptures, things we've never seen before. And in amongst the collection is reptilian humanoid sculptures. This is one of the Nagas. He's got a cobra over the top of his head. He's got cobras coming out to the sides. I mean, this was probably done in 13th or 14th century AD, so they say, so it's fairly recent, not based on eyewitness testimony, so the face looks more human than it probably really would. But again, this is just new sculptures they dug out of the ground, and once again, it all happens right during the solar flash, and it's talking about reptilians. Because in the Hindu tradition, they are described as Nagas, and they're reptilian humans. On the same day, we had this headline about a liquidity crisis at the Oscars, top headline on Zero Hedge. They went woke, facing liquidity crisis, launching a $500 million fundraising drive as viewers flee. And to think Ricky Gervais could have saved the whole thing for much less. So then we go into May 11th. And at this point now, we're the U.S. power grid and communication networks survive an extreme geomagnetic storm. There again is that beautiful picture of something that really did happen. It says, major geomagnetic solar storm happening right now, biggest in a long time. Starlink satellites are under a lot of pressure, but holding up so far. So there was some fear out there. Oh my God, what if it's all going to happen right now? What if our grid is going to collapse? What if we're going to go into this extinction condition? You know, I just said, if I'm still here on Sunday, maybe I'll do a show, but my life, I'm going through so much hell. You know, I had this dream about the deal going wrong, and it compared one of the parties involved to Hannibal Lecter, and then all of a sudden the Alliance does a Hannibal Lecter callback. Now, nobody would have known this because I didn't make it public unless they could see inside my computer, and I believe they can, just like with everybody else. That's just something we all have to deal with now. There's no real privacy. Anybody in the intelligence community can see inside and look at what you're doing. So I had this very disturbing Hannibal Lecter dream that was a prophetic glimpse of what was going to happen, that these guys are going to ask us for something that, you know, even if we wanted to do it, we can't by national security. So they just ask us for things we can't do. And this has predicted the future so accurately in so many ways that nobody can legitimately oppose it. All they do is they resort to ad hominem character attacks. What does ad hominem mean? Against the person. They don't actually attack the data because the data is so incontrovertible that you can't even fight the data. The prophecies are so redundant. Like I said, there's red-lined marks on almost every page of all 7 books. It talks about so many things that are going on in today's world. It totally describes the Alliance. And so, again, it gives a very alternative view of Donald Trump. Remember, I didn't like Trump in the beginning. I was actually another one of those haters out there. I didn't like the way things went down with Rosie O'Donnell, for example. I never watched any of his television shows. I don't watch any television, so it wasn't like I was singling him out. But okay, yeah, the "you're fired" guy, it kind of makes sense if he becomes president, but I wasn't really that into it until I started to find out that there's way more to this whole situation than meets the eye. And that is why, as I've said, he has earned my loyalty, he has earned my love, my trust, and my respect. If that pisses you off, I'm sorry. But when you understand why he's been hated so much, it's all going to make sense. This is not just because of these supposedly bad things that he's done. All those trials are falling apart. It's because he's responsible for the largest covert operation in the history of humankind on Earth. There has never been anything like this before, where you have the military and the intelligence community, not just of America, but most of the world, participating in a campaign not to do stealth state capture like they usually do, where they take over an innocent country. And that was happening all over the world, as you can hear in the book Confessions of an Economic Hitman, for example. But instead, this is a massive covert operation to expose what we could call the dark side. And the people who are running the world actually do practice evil. And they believe that it works. And again, it doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. They are as serious as a heart attack about this. And they practice these ceremonies, and it does usually involve some type of murder. And then in the process of this, they think, and it could be a hallucination, whatever drugs they're taking, and you know what those drugs are, but they think that they're seeing some kind of manifestation of a creature. And a lot of them have horns, and they would be called demons. And the demon gets directly involved in the event that they are all there to produce, which involves a victim. So I was going to do a show that would have been very disturbing, but it's probably not a good idea for Mother's Day, where I have poems describing my visual sight of these events and how horrific they are.